Change. Change was the subject I was talking about in my last video when I saw you last. Change and conditioning. And today I'd like to touch upon what conditioning actually is and what do I mean by conditioning and where does it come from. So the reason why I'm talking to you about that today is I have spent the last 4 days in Adelaide at a wedding. The 2 people who got married are good friends of mine, and over the course of the 4 days, myself and 4 other people who went down to celebrate with them were observing different kinds of behavior in the 2 people who did get married, which made us think and also worry a little bit. A lot of what I saw in those 2 people who are getting married, I actually could see in myself in the marriage of 23 years where I have been verbally abused and controlled. Now I know that it wasn't only my ex-husband's fault, it was my fault for him to be able to treat me that way. I allowed him to treat me that way because I did not have my own boundaries in place, I did not communicate my needs enough, and that's what we could observe in the 2 people getting married on the weekend. Because one of them was the dominant partner, saying how he wanted everything done, when the other partner tried to communicate that he wanted it in a different way, he did not stand a chance because everything had to be done, Paul was saying. And so I actually communicated to the other partner at one stage that I really want him to think about what he wants from this relationship and that he might want to stand up for himself every now and then as well. Because hiding yourself or not being true to yourself over a course of a longer period of time is not healthy and you cannot sustain it. It is not sustainable. And that's the reason for the video today. I want to talk to you about conditioning. And there is a quote that comes to mind from Bradshaw, which goes sort of, hell, in my opinion, is not finding my true self, never knowing myself, and not knowing who you are. I'm taking this to start the communication with you. Who are you? Who are you really? And what I'm about to communicate to you now comes from a book by Sharon Pearson, who is also the founder of the Coaching Institute where I've got all my knowledge from. And in her book Ultimate You, she says there is 10 traits to each and every person when we are born. They are the innate I amness traits, and that's how we are naturally born, which determine who we are in our core. So these traits are, I've written them down for you so you can follow me easily. Being curious, being risk-taking, being spontaneous, being lovable, being warm, being playful, being unique, being optimistic, being emotional, and being resilient. So these 10 traits are innate to us. We are born with these traits. And over the course of our very early life, we are getting conditioned. That's what I was talking about in the last video. Being conditioned. Being conditioned by our parents, by the school, by our surroundings, our environment. And through that conditioning, we're starting to take on false traits. with these 4 traits, which I will touch on in a later video, we are starting to play roles, different kinds of roles, and playing roles takes out a lot of energy of us. So the Merriam-Webster dictionary actually defines a role as something socially expected. It is a socially expected behavior for an individual in its state. So that's what a role is. And for us to play a role takes a lot of energy. That in the end we don't have energy left to be who we are in the core of ourselves. And talking about core, I want to go back to Sharon Pearson. She is the founder of so many awesome coaching models, and I'm actually wanting to share one of her models in this video. It's called Core, Crud and Crust. So who are you in your core, which is who are you originally? Who is it you really are? Are you spontaneous? Are you adventurous? Are you risk-taking? All of these I amness traits are who you really are, or who you really should be, who you were when you first were born. So I put it upon you. Are you still risk-taking, adventurous? Are you lovable? Do you have warmth? Are you spontaneous? All of these traits, I want you to ask yourself, am I still all of these traits? Because all of these traits are you the way you were born. The next layer of the model is the crud. So if you imagine the core is on the inside, then there goes a layer on the outside, which Sharon Pearson calls the crud. So the crud is what we take on because we are fearful of being found out, we are fearful of not being good enough, fearful of not being lovable, fearful of not being worthy. And because of all of these fears, we put on a crud. So we start being untruthful to ourselves. And we're starting to use energy to pretend being somebody who we not really are. And then the third layer is the crust. The crust is then the layer, so that's the third layer, the core, the crud, and the crust. The crust is the outer layer of us where we try to be somebody who we are not really, but we think that's how other people want to see us, how other people want to perceive us. Because from our conditioning earlier on in life, we actually learned that with putting on a certain mask or playing a certain role, we are getting a lot easier through life. And down the track, playing these roles becomes so automatic to us. So to share my example with you, and I only learned that over the last maybe 2 years, because I thought when I left my husband, when I left the relationship where I've been controlled in, that I have solved my problems. And yet it dawned on me only at the beginning of last year. I'm still in a controlled relationship, not by a partner, but by the neighbor, my next door neighbor I have been living with. I have been living in a duplex, and my next door neighbor was narcissistic like hell, and I was again the one trying to please her. So my story in that is, I love my mom heaps, and I have a very, very good relationship with my mom. But my mom is, or mainly has been, very controlling in my upbringing. so controlling to the point that when I came home 5 minutes late after a play date with a girlfriend that was in primary school, I would get punished. Not punished physically, but she would not allow me to stay up as long, or I don't know. There wasn't severe punishment, but for being late by a few minutes, punishment kicked in. And because I wanted to avoid being punished, I started to please my mom. I started to be that good girl that my mom wanted to be. So I grew up as a people pleaser and was that all my life. I was wearing that mask all my life. Until not long ago, I started to learn to put boundaries in place, to communicate my needs, to allow my emotions. And that's all things that I want to touch on in my videos that are going to follow, because I want you to go on that journey of self-discovery, of self-development, of self-growth, self-awareness. I want you to become aware that the life you're living it now is not the life you are meant to live it if you are unhappy, if you know what I mean. You are meant to be happy, be fulfilled. You're meant to live your purpose, and I want to help you with that. I hope you got something out of the video today with that model core, quad and crust. And until you watch my next video, I would like you to think about the layers that you have been putting on and that you are living. And think about who you are in the core. Who is the real you? Who has fun, who likes laughing, who likes to go on an adventure, who likes to be silly, who likes to be spontaneous, who likes to dance and not care what other people think about the movements you are doing. It doesn't matter, because all that counts is that you are you. So if you are curious about what I'm going to share with you in my next videos on self-discovery and self-awareness and self-development, then keep watching my channel, and you can comment below and get in touch with me. I look forward to seeing you soon again. Bye for now, take care.